You guys may remember that I covered the NZXT H9 and also the Asus GT502 on the channel before, which are some dual chamber cases that pretty much take their inspiration from this one right here. This is the Lian O11 Dynamic. Specifically, I've got the EVO version here, which is a little bit bigger than the standard one, but it does allow for some more flexibility that we'll cover as we go throughout the video. Overclockers UK have kindly sent this out for me to look at, and we're going to do some comparisons and also building this, more specifically comparisons to the ones that I've already looked at. So if you're wondering about specific which is better for certain circumstances, then wait for those videos that will be coming up soon. Get subscribed so you don't miss it. So obviously the O11 Dynamic's become a very popular case. If you were to go on Instagram and search for PC builds, pretty much like 1 out of 2 you'll see are using them. They're just very, very popular. But I've actually built them on myself, so this is obviously where we're going to be going with this. The box won't come off, that means you need to get your flaps out. Static. Oh god, every time. Nice metallic black finish on that case as well. Also available in white and silver if you're not a fan of black. Obviously black's very stealthy and fits the majority of things I'm going to be putting in it. So accessory box, wow, look at this. So we've got a nice, absolutely crowned little accessory box. There's some Velcro cable ties, all different mounting screws. These look like the SSD mounting pads, some cable management stuff, and of course your standard motherboard screws. So these bars are to allow you to add some extra SSDs or hard drives. So this case can be inverted. I think I'm going to go for an inverted build. I've never done an inverted one, so kill 2 birds with 1 stone using this and an inverted build in one go. Got a Lian DeBauer case badge. Obviously they work very closely with Roman for these cases. They used to stick them in a specific position, but now you can put it wherever you want, so you can stick it right up your user manual, which is very helpful if you're going to do an inverted build especially. They also have a vertical GPU mount as well. There's all these different accessories you can get for this, it's crazy. Here we have an additional mount which will give you lots of SSD and hard drive support. You actually get 9 sets of SSD mounting pads in the box, so that tells you how many you can put in. But I think I'm going to go NVMe and probably won't use this ever. Let's have a look at the top while we're here, because we're in a good position to do that. A couple of thumb screws which will take this panel off. No actual magnetic filter on there, but it does look very fine anyway. So on the top we can support up to a 360mm radiator. There is also a bracket on there that you can take out to make life easier, so you can install everything onto your bracket, then you slide that in afterwards. There you can see that black I mentioned as well, nice brushed metallic. Looks very nice actually in person. That bit can also be taken off because you can get an additional I/O kit to go up here. That will fit in that gap there. Then you'll get a different top piece as well, which will obviously have the I/O in, so you can add some extra there. Very similar to the I/O that's at the front, just on the top. Obviously you will need a motherboard that can take 2 USB 3 headers as well. I don't think it's overly expensive either, it's about £20 extra, so it's not too bad if you want to add some more I/O. So let's pop this back on. Of course you can do any configuration of a 240 radiator, you can do 280s, 140mm fans, obviously only 2 rather than 3 120s, but you do have some different options there. Let's go to the back as I'm currently looking at it. So here's one of the big differences between the EVO and the standard O11. You've actually got support for a rear 120mm rear exhaust. Unlike the standard one, you could fit an 80mm if you could find one, but there isn't any standard size rear support. You've got your 8 standard expansion ports, obviously where your rear motherboard I/O will be. Then your power supply will go into here. You have got some filtration on the side for the fan of your power supply. You can fit up to 220mm power supply in this case, so a pretty long one actually, that's what she said. But I don't know if you'll really ever use that much, because a lot of the higher wattages nowadays are in a smaller form factor anyway as technology advances. So, but it's there if you need it. Before we go into the main section of the case, I just want to go to the bottom quickly. You have got filtration for any intake fans you install. Then also your front I/O for the case can be relocated. So you just simply pull up this tab, push it along, and that will pop out. Here we've got 2 USB 3 ports. There's a USB 3.1, which is type C. Then we've got a audio and microphone jack. You can also move this as well, so you can have it on the side of the case if you'd rather. Then also when you invert the build, you can also swap it so it'll be on the other side. Fan support on the bottom is pretty much the same as the top, so you've got up to 360mm support, and it's also on a bracket as well, so it makes life easier, much like on the top of the case. So we do need a screwdriver to get the tempered glass off. It's just under the top fan mount, but it does mean it is nice and secure. There we go, and then that's an angled one, so lift it to a little degree and that will slide out. So here we have the internals. So for motherboard support you have up to 280mm width, so EATX, but just make sure obviously it's within the limitations of the case, because obviously you don't want to be overhanging too much. Might put a little bit of stress, especially if you have tight cables going into maybe USB headers. There's some nice grommets just angled away, so your cables will come round and get a nice bend on there. Really nice quality grommets on there. And then the same at the top for your 8 pins and any fans you might have for your radiators. A little bit of a shame there's no grommets in the bottom, especially if you're going to do an inverted build. That means the open holes will be at the top and then you have grommeted ones at the bottom, but not too much of a big deal. So of course we've got that piece of tempered glass at the front. You can take it off if you need to. And then you've got some support for some additional fans for the dual chamber side of the case. Again, you can do up to 360mm of support, either with 3 120s or 2 140s. Then you've also got some area for the AIO tubes to go through if you want to mount your radiator on the side. So for clearances and things, you've got up to 167mm for your CPU towers, and then up to 422 for your graphics cards. Because there's no fans or anything at the front of the case, it obviously gives you a lot more space. So that will take any graphics card that's currently on the market. If anyone's wondering about radiator and fan thickness support, maybe doing push-pull, the top and the bottom can take 87.5, then the inner side can do up to 83 and the outer side can do up to 120mm, so you can get away with push-pull on the side of the case. So for the back of the case, it's a push-pin style. I've just taken off the top to make it a little bit easier to get your fingers under. To start on the left-hand side, of course, as I mentioned, you've got all the fan and radiator support on there. Space for the AIO tubes if you want to mount your radiator on the side. This screw at the top will allow you to push them out through. You can take it out and add everything on, like I said, and add it in afterwards. Got a little thumb screw at the top, actually quite tight. This will allow this part to come out. You can put 2 additional SSDs on there if you wish. Loads of depth there, obviously, to mount your power supply, but also means you've got loads of depth for cable management to play with, so not a bad thing to have. There's a small PSU support on the bottom there. Now if you do invert this case, you can put that on the other side as well, so you still will get support on your PSU no matter which way round it is. Just undo these Velcro cable ties and then we can see what cables there are for the front panel and things. Here we've got a block header for the front panel. Nice to see that companies are doing this, makes it so much easier. There's also an RGB header as well. You have got some lighting on this, which is a small strip down the front of the case. I'll add a picture on the screen so you can see it lit up. There's also some options for lighting control on the side of the case, also with a power button as well. Then these are the cables for the I/O box that I showed you on the bottom of the case. Got one for audio, a USB Type-C, then our USB 3. I think that's everything to say about this case. Obviously very flexible with what you can do with it, so I'm looking forward to doing a build in this. Definitely going to go inverted. I think it's just something a bit different as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you've got any more questions. Leave them in the comments box below and I'll get back to you. Stay tuned, get subscribed and ding the bell so you don't miss any future videos, especially in comparisons if you're wondering about versus the H9 or maybe the GT502. Maybe we'll just do one with all 3. So yeah, thank you for overclocking this out for me to look at. Thank you all for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.